I'm willing to bet that for most people that fall away from Christianity or their church, it's because they become fed up with the behavior of other Christians. If you've ever felt that way or been tempted to feel that way, or just have a tough time reconciling the dysfunction that you perceive in your fellow Christians, then that's what I want to discuss in this video. Let's start by getting something awkward out of the way right away. I get that it's not nice to judge other people or to compare yourself or your group to others, but Christians believe that Jesus is our lifeline to God, and that through that relationship, God will help us to become more like Him, who is the source of moral goodness. Okay, so if that's true, if Christians enjoy this intimate connection with God, and that as they do so, His goodness will rub off on us, we call that His grace, then shouldn't we expect Christians to be, generally speaking, more morally upright than people who are not Christians? As uncomfortable as that question is, it seems like a necessary conclusion if we're being honest with ourselves. And in the interest of being honest with ourselves, if we take a hard look at the evidence, what do we find? A good example that keeps rearing its head for me as a Catholic is the sex abuse scandals in the Catholic Church. Now, this is something that has rocked a lot of people's faith and confirmed some of the worst suspicions among people who are skeptical about the Catholic Church or even hostile towards it. Now, if you were to try to defend the Catholic Church's integrity, a really easy fact to point out is that the rate of abuse among Catholic clergy is no higher than it is in other spheres of influence like education or sports or politics or other faith communities. But the rebuttal that you should be prepared for would be something like, if the Catholic clergy are supposed to be living lives of holiness set apart in the service of God, then shouldn't that rate of abuse and that kind of behavior be actually lower than it is in society in general? And that's a good point. And the fact that it's not should be an opportunity for some self-reflection for us Catholics. So again, if Christians are following the true God, who is the source of life, then the effects of that should be obvious. You should be able to tell by looking at our lives that we are tapped into this source of goodness that others are missing. Now, don't get me wrong, if you spend enough time in the church, you will meet some people who are incredibly good and holy, but you'll also meet people who are selfish and greedy, who will slander you and who will brag, who are the kind of people that will be the last to help someone who really needs it. Thinking about this has given me good reason to reflect on myself and how I measure up as a Christian. And one thing I know for sure is that that lifeline of grace that I talked about before has been an indispensable source of stability and help in my life. I know the kind of person I was and the direction I was headed in, or the lack of direction I had before my conversion. And if I'm really honest with myself, I have to admit that without grace, I would be screwed. Without grace, I am a loser. And I am deeply aware of that fact. And so in that sense, making that comparison, comparing the person I am without faith and grace to the person I am with faith and grace, the disparity is obvious. When you think about the stories in the Bible, the people that really responded to Jesus' invitation favorably were the losers. They were the sinners and the outcasts and the nobodies. The people that had it all together, or at least looked like they had it all together, were the people that were hostile towards him. And those same people even commented about the kind of company that Jesus kept. And his reply to them was that a healthy person has no need of a physician. What is amazing about Christianity is that this same dysfunctional group of outcasts and nobodies revolutionized the world with their message. They started the greatest movement that the world has ever known, and they did it in spite of the genocidal hostility of the greatest empire the world has ever known, the Roman Empire. That for me is the trademark of Christianity. The losers, the nobodies, and the outcasts encounter something that enables them to play a role in the world. And without that ongoing encounter with God, they would still be the same losers and nobodies that they were before. To be a Christian is probably then, for most of us, an experience of being transformed from a dysfunctional nobody into a functional human being. So Christianity isn't so much an influence in the world that takes normal people and makes them better than normal, but one that takes underachievers and addicts and sinners and outcasts and helps them to find freedom and health and hope. It makes them whole. So to answer the question that was posed by this video, generally, no. I would say that Christians are not better than everyone else. For most of us, it's a miracle that we can even be compared to everyone else. And drawing that conclusion made me think of something else. If you can reconcile this fact that if you're a Christian, it's probably because some part of you knows that without God's help, you'd be a lost cause, then it should be a good reminder that you share a lot in common with people who survive in a state of ostracism, loneliness, and poverty. The people that we often think of as the poor are just where you and I would be, fellow Christian, if we hadn't somehow stumbled into Jesus, and that should be a pretty good incentive for us to find solidarity with them. All right. Thank you guys for watching that. If you enjoyed that, then please like it and share it and subscribe and come follow along for more content. And if you want to support the making of these videos, then please consider supporting the business that makes them possible. Holdsworth Design is a digital marketing and communications company that specializes in web design, print design, branding, videography, and all that kind of stuff. So, and this is with a special emphasis on churches and ministries as well. So if you know somebody that needs those services, then please consider passing that along to them, and check out the website, which is www.holdsworthdesign.com.